Welcome everyone, this is Dave Meyer with BusyWeb. Delighted to have you here for what to say and how to say it using words and images to craft your messages. We're going to branch a little bit beyond email messages today. We're going to talk about content on social media, content on your website, content everywhere, because everything that you do with your content needs to adhere to a few basic principles. And we're going to talk to you a whole bunch about how to use content to drive new business. I'm Dave Meyer, your host, and here's how to get a hold of me if you would like to reach me during the event. I have another more important way to ask questions live during today's event. So if you have questions, I'll share with you how to do that. But if you would like today's slides, send me an email by sending a note to dave@busyweb.com. Or if you have issues or if you'd like to chat with us, you can always give us a call at 612-4BUSY-O. All right, so I promised that I would give you a way to ask questions live during the event, and so here it is. On today's event, if you click on the link that I've highlighted right now, you will see this page. You'll go in here and you'll see this page, and I'm actually going to pause right here so that you can see that. But if you go to the YouTube live page, you'll be able to ask us questions live during the event by going over to the live chat window and then simply typing your question right here as such. Ask your questions here. So if you enter that in, I'll get that note. I'm going to check that probably 4 or 5 times during the event. So if I don't get back to you right away, just hold on. But please go ahead and ask those questions. Again, from today's event page on busyweb.com, if you click what I've highlighted right here, YouTube Live in the Q&A window, and if that'll take you to this page, in the Q&A in the live chat, you can go ahead and enter something. And as a test, if you'd like, why don't you just enter in where you're from? Or if you'd like to, if you have specific questions on the type of content that you'd like me to cover, that'll help me guide. So I'm going to check back in a couple of minutes. So go ahead and ask those questions through that live chat window. All right. So first, BusyWeb. Who the heck are we? What are we doing? Why do we know what we're doing enough to tell you? Well, BusyWeb is a digital marketing agency based in Minneapolis, Minnesota that focuses on all kinds of digital marketing. So whether it's email marketing, social media, advertising, and of course, content writing and providing for your clients. We do all of those things for our clients, all at one low monthly fee. So if you're interested, we'd love to talk. We also do all kinds of web design, whether it's from the artist known as Prince to anything in business, in B2B, B2C. We've done websites for our clients that can match that result. And we'd love to chat with you if you're interested. But enough about us, let's talk about you and about marketing. So first, marketing is all about getting real, physical, tangible results. So if you're not getting results, it makes it real hard to get anything out of marketing. And you don't know that unless you're measuring. So you need to measure against the kinds of results that we know that we need. Whether it's clicks and downloads, visits to your office, reservations or appointments, or calls, the thing that these all drive back to, and it's more than just likes on Facebook or page visits or whatever, it all drives back to probably one big thing. You're looking for revenue in your business, or if you're a nonprofit, you're looking for donations. So how can you do that? How can content help you drive that? Well, content is really all about the currency of the web. Without content, we don't have anything to share. We don't have anything to interact with people. We don't have anything to engage, inform, capture, or convert our visitors or our suspects and prospects into clients. You need to be the source that your readers know, like, and trust. Big way and easy way to do that, of course, is to answer your customers' questions. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how to take that down to the real world shortly. So what kind of content should we use? Well, basically everything that we're going to talk about today boils down to 3 things: pictures or videos, text, or in this case, paragraphs, and then calls to action. So pictures, of course, are obvious. Pictures worth 1,000 words, videos worth 1,000 pictures. And content, the text, is how search engines are going to find you in social media and on the web. It's how you will engage, or will people's searches will match up against your content. And then the call to action, the unsung hero of the web, is telling people what to do next. It's not necessarily buy now. It's not necessarily X or Y, because it's different for every campaign. It's different for every post, but it needs to be clear. If your marketing is essentially Where's Waldo, and you're asking people to hunt around by just driving people to a website or not telling them what you want at all, you're losing out on a massive opportunity to engage with your audience. And while we're talking about audience, you need to remember that the content that you're creating from scratch, you're not writing for yourself. You're writing for the people you're trying to engage. You need to make your messages short, relevant, and focused. Emails, for example, shouldn't tell recipients every single thing that you do with every single email that you send, and it shouldn't include lots of other junk. You need to make every message relevant to your audience by thinking about the conversations you've already had with your clients, customers, and members. After every interaction, you might want to jot down some ideas on what can help you expand that topic. Relevance is important, and here's why. 38% of email recipients will unsubscribe if they think the content in your email is boring or not relevant to them. And when a person unsubscribes, you can't communicate with them ever again. 32% will send irrelevant content to their spam folder, and enough spam sends will affect how email providers like Gmail or Yahoo or Microsoft Office 365 will sort your future messages. If 100 people spam your comment, none of your messages might go through to that recipient. And if enough happens, or if that happens enough times, your website might disappear from them because your IP will get blacklisted. And I'll talk more about that later if you want to know more. So what's our agenda for the day? First, we're going to talk about creating content, of course, how to come up with the ideas for words, images, and calls to action you'll use in your messaging and marketing. Next, we're going to talk about curating content, how to find and share content from outside sources that you can use in your marketing. We'll talk about extending your reach beyond email by using social media. And then we're going to talk about how to get started by developing content ideas for your organization. So again, if you're looking for help on specific things, that live chat window is going to be great. If you enter in a type of content that you're struggling with, or how to perhaps make a subject line more engaging, go ahead and enter that in the live chat window so that I can help you with that. And of course, again, if you're shy and you don't want to deal with that, go ahead and send me an email at dave@busyweb.com. So let's dig in. And before I do, I want to make sure that we don't have any questions. So before we talk about Create, I'm just going to go right in. So Job Cost from Naperville, Elizabeth from Winfield, and Taylor from Cape Girardeau. Awesome name of a town in Missouri. So thank you very much to those three for sending a note. And if you have any specific questions, would love that. Again, we have a lot of people online right now, so go ahead and enter in where you're from as well if you haven't yet. That lets me know that you're able to ask questions if you haven't. And I'm just curious about where you're from and what you're looking to do. So thank you very much for those three to asking that question, or for answering my little question. All right, so let's create some content. Whoops, I shouldn't have clicked that fast. What do you write about in your messaging? It's one of the biggest questions and biggest hurdles that most of us encounter when we set out to create some bit of content, whether it's emails, social media, blog posts, or just any good old-fashioned content. The good news is that you know your organization and your customers better than anyone, and there's a world of ideas out there for you. First and above all else, write about what you know that your prospects or customers don't know about. This is actually a pretty big window because you're doing what you do because you know more than your customer. And if they knew more, they would be doing it. So you're an expert already in your field, even if you don't feel like it. Here are some types of content that you can share with your audience. Take a look at what's on the screen and think about ways that you can explore these ideas. Let's talk about a few of these. First, Offerings. If you have a new product, you can write a paragraph describing what it does and use photos or video to share a quick product demo or tutorial. If you have an event coming up, send out all the details in a short email, including a link to register the event. If you have a new location, you can send out an update. Maybe you've hired a new employee or have a well-known employee retiring. Send out a bio or photo of that note to your customers and clients. Updates can go out in the form of newsletters or press releases. Perhaps you're a nonprofit and you received a big grant. Perfect reason to send out a note. Do you have a recent event? Or did you have a recent event? Send out a survey asking recipients how that event went, or send an email to share photos of your event. Education. You're an expert in your field, as we covered. Write about what you know that your audience doesn't. This is your opportunity to weigh in with your perspective on a study you've come across, a news story that probably affects your customers, or if you sell a product, you can make a video that demonstrates how to use it. You can also share your know-how. Let's say you open a landscaping company. You can easily send out a note early in the spring that lays out a good planting schedule for your customers. Entertainment. Also, don't be afraid to share your fun side. We've all seen funny YouTube videos, and some of those probably at least tangentially relate to your field. Maybe you've heard of an interesting, funny, or inspiring quote that you want to share. Or perhaps your employees have made a cool behind-the-scenes video, which is something that you could really show off to talk about your environment, your company's personality. How much of this is enough? Well, in general, with content across all forms, especially in emails and social media posts, less is more. There's no rule that says your newsletter needs to have 3 articles, 3 pictures, and 3 links. One thing is plenty. There's actually a Constant Contact customer whose newsletter is called One Thing. He did this to make it easy on himself, and it works really well. People can absorb it, and he's not under the gun to come up with a bunch of content to fill that massive newsletter. We did a study of our customers and found that the best practice is to limit yourself to 20 lines of text and 3 or fewer images. Just like you, your audience is busy. You don't need to worry about sending a ton of information every time, and it actually works against you to send too much stuff, and especially to ask people to do too many things. My research shows that 1 link gets the best click-through rate. This is that clear call to action link, right? You want your audience to take some action. So use that link to make it clear. 2 links are okay, but once you get to 3 or more, the rate really starts to decline. At higher than 5 links, people are less likely to click anywhere on your message. So try to stick with 1 or 2 and keep them high in your message so people don't have to scroll down to take an action. Here's something I tell my clients all the time. If your messaging is like Where's Waldo and people can't figure out what to do, they just won't. We're all walking around with computers in our pockets and we're scrolling around. Maybe we're waiting in line at the airport. Maybe we're just, your company's name comes up in conversation and people are swiping to find you. If they can't figure out what they need inside of that 10 seconds, you've lost that opportunity. And remember, more than half of emails are read on mobile devices. So when we look at this, the #1 app on mobile devices is email still. But whether you're on Snapchat or Instagram, Facebook or LinkedIn, the shorter, the more concise, and the clearer your content is, the better. How to make that happen? Well, apply some structure. You can use outlines to help you further focus your ideas and organize the sections of your message. Any text that you'll write yourself, any photos or videos you want to use, and any content from outside sources that you may want to share. Here's a killer tip that we actually covered last week on Wednesday in my Buzzcast with Michelle Hansen, who leads our content division at BusyWeb. If you're struggling with content, just leave yourself a voicemail with what you want to talk about. Most voicemails, like on iPhones or even on most digital voicemail systems nowadays, will transpose that text or that voice message into text. So at the very least, you'll have something to start with when you're looking to drive that content. You might want to make yourself a note. Google Voice makes this really easy because it transcribes all texts, so it might be worth it just to get yourself a Google Voice that you can call and leave yourself messages on because it transcribes it. But if, like me, you're a talker and not necessarily a writer, That's a great way to go from an outline right into text. You might also want to jot down a list of topics that come up in conversations with your customers, members, clients, volunteers, or donors, and use those to spark ideas for your messages. If you get 5 questions from your clients, that's 5 separate topics that you can build on. You might want to show expertise in your field. Become a knowledgeable resource for your audience, and they'll look forward to messages from you. Here's the thing. If you're a subscriber or if you're part of any trade associations in your field, you probably get communications about what you do from other places. We're going to talk about content curation in a little bit, but that's a brilliant way to show your expertise, is to share things that are in your field. For example, if you're a financial planner, you might want to forward the 3 tax tips that you see inside of the newsletter for your association. You want to be careful with some of that, especially in financial services, but the more you can be a helpful resource or the person that people think of whenever they think about what you do, the better off you're going to be. And then finally, make it look like you. It needs to have your brand, your colors, your logo. It should say that it comes from you. A lot of folks today might have gotten an email from Dave Meyer that said that here's some things that we have coming up in the coming month. So it needs to be clear. If people already know you, if people understand who you are and what you do, underscoring that in every message, making sure that your Facebook icon is your logo and that your logo is legible from a thumbnail size, making sure that the phrasing and toning of your message matches your company. BusyWeb is kind of a fun and jovial organization. We try to make working with us fun and interesting. Our tagline is generate buzz without getting stung. And so we don't take ourselves too seriously. If I posted something that was too serious and analytical and droll, it might not go over nearly as well as something that just said, hey, come on in and check out one of our new classes. It needs to be your voice. If you want to turn questions into answers, you can think about perhaps what you've received from your audience lately, or the last time that you've talked to a client and someone has sent you something. And you can turn stuff like this. How do I ensure my pipes won't burst this winter? How do I deduct mileage I drive from work home each day? What's a simple way to pick the right wine? Or how do I get more people to show up at my events? Into messages. So how do I ensure my pipes won't burst? 5 ways to protect your pipes. Simple way to pick the right wine? Red or white? 5 simple wine pairing tips. How do I get more people to show up at my events? 10 ways to sell more tickets for your next event. These are all very action-driven, and you might notice that they all have numbers in them. Adding a number or a list kind of option tells people that they're probably in for a small digestible bite of information. It's an hors d'oeuvre, right? You're not going to get people to sign on or to open a message from you that says 150 things that you need to know about in order to do X. Keep it small, keep it simple, and let people know what to expect when they open that. Otherwise, they're just not going to click on that email, on that social media post, on that blog post. It's really the difference between doing your content like we always have and really marketing your messaging. So in emails, it's the difference between the left and the right, right? If you get a message like this on the left from someone, much less likely that you're actually going to click on it or certainly get the point. You know, this is a very small screen, and I know that Southside Cycling wants you to visit their site. And it probably tells you why, right? It's summer and your partner on the road wants to make sure you're ready for riding, right? Much harder to drill that down in a regular email. Not to mention the fact that if you're using email and just sending emails out to all kinds of people, there's a bunch of problems with that. First, you might get blacklisted, as I mentioned before, because if enough people click on spam when they see your message, that sends a signal to the ISPs or internet service providers that your content is spam. If they block your IP address because you've sent too many spam addresses or spam messages, and your email is hosted on the same server as your website disappears for them. Not to mention the fact that the Can Spam Act makes spamming people illegal, and that there are actual fines that can be levied. I've never seen it happen, but it's just not good practice, right? Emails aren't email marketing. An email is a person-to-person thing. If you're going to send a message out to a bunch of people, use a tool like Constant Contact, like MailChimp, like whatever, to get the notes out to people in a way that's going to be easy to deliver, easy to measure, and that's going to respect your customer, your intended audience's time. And don't forget that images are content too. More than 90% of information processed by the brain is visual, and creating visual content is easier than ever these days. Almost anybody with a smartphone has the ability to shoot high quality videos and images. You need to be careful with that because it's really easy to post humongous pictures on your website or on Facebook or on social media, or to post long, boring videos. So you do need to still think about this, and it still needs to be something that's easy to digest, but don't be afraid to add images. In a message like an email, imagery can be simple, can be clear, can help you drive content forward, but you need to make sure that your content, your email images are clickable. So in this example, Great Vacation Retreats, if you click on Great Vacation Retreats, it takes you to the homepage. If you go further down and you click here to view, that's going to take you to the off-season specials page. It doesn't take you to the homepage, it takes you to the place that you need to go. Now, I'm not a huge fan of this because it doesn't really have enough imagery, and I think that the logo is huge on the top of that page, but you got to start somewhere. So it can be helpful to just take a look at it on both mobile devices and on your computer. And so when you're using images in your marketing, you're faced with the task of creating content, deciding what images are best, and determining the context and the story behind them. It's a lot to think about. So here's some directions. You might be creating images around your business, the environment or what's around you, your expertise, or themes that you think your audience will love. You don't have to have a product to sell to include visual content in your emails. If you have a new employee, feature their photo with a caption explaining who they are and what they're bringing to your business. If you're a nonprofit, share photos of recent events or graphics showing the progress of funding campaigns. Photos are a frequent and necessary piece of visual content, and sometimes you might need a photo that you don't have or can't create with your phone. There's a lot of online stock photo sites where you can search for just the right photo that fits your needs. Do not, underline do not, use Google image search to locate your images. Most of the content on Google image searches are copyrighted images. I've had clients use images that they found off Google Images, and they've actually gotten invoices from Getty Images for the use of that hamster in a wheel. So make sure that you're careful with that. Good options for stock photos include Big Stock Photo, Stock Vault, freeimages.com, or my personal favorite that I didn't write down on this slide, but PhotoPin, PhotoPin.com. I'm gonna actually click over, make sure that I didn't miss any questions because I want to add that in here. We got Mansfield, Ohio from Laura. Thank you, Laura. And Kim from Appleton, Wisconsin. Awesome to see you guys. Photopin.com is a great image locating resource. Forgot my E. So you can check out photopin.com. So great stuff from people. Again, if you have questions on how to locate these things, on how to do it, I would love to take that. That's where you can go. So video is also a powerful way to engage with your audience, and people prefer watching video to reading long web pages full of text. When you're using a video, make sure that you mention in your subject line of an email or in a post that you have a video so that people know about it right away. Some folks are more likely to check out videos. Some folks won't open a message unless they see what the context is. You're just setting yourself up by setting the expectation that here's what I'm giving you. Customers prefer watching video to reading long text articles, as I mentioned, and in fact, 50% of people are more likely to read emails that include a video, but you need to make sure that your length on that video is short. 90 seconds is the point at which 58% of viewers will stop watching and or just not open it. If you click on that video and it says that there's 35 minutes left on that video, you're not going to do it. So keep it short. And again, this is from email marketing or social media marketing. A Facebook video, a live video post is probably better at 30 to 45 seconds. And then to make video work for your business, you can use it to show product demos, customer testimonials. You have a customer that's delighted, just grab your phone and ask them if they can talk about how delighted they are and why. Promotional materials, or sharing user-generated content. I'm talking about email, but video has become incredibly prominent on social media as well. 84% of consumers have liked videos from companies in social media news feeds, Facebook especially, also Instagram, seeing some traffic on Snapchat as well. LinkedIn is offering embedded videos now too, so you can do all of this from one central location. Remember, if you include a video link, you can repurpose it on all of the platforms that you're trying to connect with people on. The example here is a great way to use video. The Pajama program sent this email out with a link to a video thanking their donors. Just remember to keep your videos short. Like I've said, your audience is busy, no more than 90 seconds or so. Make sure that you're using video in a careful, deliberate way. If you have specific action that you want your readers to take to register for an event, you should also choose text and pictures rather than just a video to make sure that people actually take that event. So this one says join the movement, which is a call to action. But if it was a promotional video for an event, that email should have a text button underneath it that says register today. You warm them up with the video and you tell them what to do with the link. You can also embed calls to action and have cards on YouTube videos, for example. Make sure that you're designing it with the intent for the way it's going to be consumed. Note that mobile videos, more than 50% never have the audio on because people are watching it while they're watching TV or in line or at work. And so they don't have the audio on. You have to click on a social media video, on a Facebook video to get the audio to turn on. So if you have a beautifully produced video that you've hired James Earl Jones for to talk and to give the intro, and you have this beautiful fade from black where it comes in and James Earl Jones says something brilliant, all people are going to see is a black box and they're going to keep scrolling. So you can add closed captioning, you can add details, you can give them more. Just make sure that you're setting it up for maximum impact and getting right to the point so that if people are scrolling in their social media feed, if they're scrolling on Facebook, for example, they see what you're doing and it draws them in. All right, so we've talked about Create. I'm going to skip back over, just make sure that I don't have any questions yet. And so we don't yet. If you do have questions as we go through, again, the live chat feature is there for you, but I'm not going to keep belaboring that. I'll keep checking back if you do. So let's talk about curating content. What is curating? It's sharing content from other sources. If content creation is you laboring in front of your computer trying to figure out what you're going to say, content curation is just like the curator at a museum. The curator doesn't paint the pictures or sculpt the sculptures. The curator finds the content and displays it with proper context for the visitor. Your job is to do the same thing. You know what is important or what's interesting to your customers. You're the expert in the field because you're connected with your local trade publications. You're just tuned in to what's happening in your field. So if you can share that content elsewhere, that's going to make you the expert. And by the way, curated content needs to be displayed appropriately. in my museum curator example, if the museum curator went all over the place and found this picture of a woman with a slightly bemused smile on her face, and said, "This was done by me," and instead it was the Mona Lisa and everybody knew that, they would get thrown out of their industry. Content that you've curated but that you haven't given the source credit for is plagiarized content. So if you're going to find content elsewhere, the proper way to do it is just to grab a small paragraph of content that you're curating, that you're finding from somewhere else, and then throw around it the Oreo cookie post philosophy. Oreo cookie post says you set up your idea or your shared content with an introduction. So that's the first cookie. Middle is the actual quote. It's a paragraph, maybe 2 paragraphs, certainly not the entire article. And then the other cookie is the context and a link back to the original source. So you set up the image or you set up the content, the paragraph, you include the paragraph, and then you give proper credit and the context as to why it's important or interesting. Where do you find curated content? Well, there's a lot of places, of course. You can search, you can search the local and regional news. Maybe you've been mentioned or have something to say about going on in what's happening in your community. Be careful with this stuff, right? There's a lot of politics happening, or a lot of vitriol in politics. And so no matter how strongly you feel about your political party or your leanings, half of the country right now seems to disagree with you. So I'd steer generally clear of that stuff unless it's very clear as to what your mission is and that fits. But again, linking to a news site, if you link to the New York Times, you have to do it right, or people will get submitted to a paywall, for example. So you have to be careful with that. You might want to read blogs. Here's a extra bit of content on here. You might want to jot this one down, and I'm actually going to write this down in my online chat. Check out Alltop, ALLTOP.com. Great source for all kinds of blogs. So check out Alltop if you're interested in finding out more information or finding blogs on almost anything under the sun. There's about 3,000 different categories on Alltop. It's all the top news, all the top blogs for anything under the sun. You can use a newsreader like Feedly to subscribe. I personally subscribe to about 200 different blogs, but it takes me about 15 minutes every evening to go over the new posts that have happened across all of those and to read maybe the 3 or 4 things that I'm actually finding interesting. For that matter, you can follow on social media. Maybe you follow somebody on LinkedIn. Maybe you have a Twitter account for a referral partner or a social media influencer that you work with. One of the fun things is that if you keep sharing enough of this stuff, you'll actually become a social media influencer. You can use Google Alerts, which is the simple act of typing at Google Alerts. You just Google Alerts, and then you type in any given keyword, and it'll send you an email anytime someone posts something matching that alert. Great Google Alerts might include your business name, or if you have a favorite client, you can include them in that Google Alerts, or you can do some sort of a keyword that's very specific. Google Alerts doesn't work very well for very broad things, and it actually won't send you something. If you say, oh, give me a Google Alert on the, the gets used quite a bit in the English language, so you probably don't want to do that. But Busy Web, I have a Google Alert for, and anytime someone sings our praises, I know about it. You might want to subscribe to email lists, but the key here is don't forget to give credit to the original author or source. That's a simple link back to the page that you found it at. If it's content that's not available elsewhere, you might want to share how to find that organization. And in general, you should probably get permission, unless it's a very small tidbit and you're very clear that this is what the context is, and you link back to that news article or source. All right, so you might also want to tip into content that other people have created. That might be your employees, so maybe a behind the scenes video like this one from Avenue Gallery. showing one of its employees loading a painting to be transported. Or you can use customer testimonials. Partners or supporters might provide content or experience. Or maybe you've gotten something back from your customer, maybe a new or interesting way that one of your customers is using your product or service. Maybe a specific or special instance of how things were used that you can tap into and that your customers might be interested in. This is a great spot as well for those testimonials. So you don't have to be the source of all of your content. So next, let's talk about extending. How do you extend beyond like emails or social media posts? Well, in general, it's to share it. You're not operating in a vacuum. Your customers don't only check Facebook or only check their emails. And so having both is probably a great tool or a great way to make sure that you're getting your content read wherever you might be. Even if someone subscribes to your email newsletter, they might be more likely to see you on Facebook because they're a heavy user or a fan. Same thing with Instagram or LinkedIn or Twitter or your blog. Make sure that you're posting everywhere possible in order to get that content out there. There's actually an interesting usage study. This is in-depth stuff, but there's on average 38% more engagement on a post that's got some sort of sharing on it than those that don't. So if you want to increase the likelihood that someone's going to click on that email that you're sending, include social sharing buttons or ask them to share on Facebook. Likewise, if you want to get more interaction on your Facebook posts, including a link to subscribe to your email is a great way to do that. It just builds and enhances trust, and the physical act of asking to share seems to lead to more interactions. As long as we're talking about emails to posts, here's some examples of how this might work. So this isn't going to translate into a lot of extra work for you, but if you're thinking about emails that you're already sending, to create those as posts is pretty simple. Maybe the tip on sending invitations in advance could be expanded into a Facebook post about when to send those event invitations. Maybe hanging flyers in your store could be turned into a great infographic on effective flyer design that you could share across all your networks. Perhaps advice on posting events on Facebook could expand to a blog post on promoting events on Facebook, which you can share across all your networks. Or adding a tip about special pricing for VIPs could be repurposed into 5 tweets, spread across a week probably, about the things VIPs want. Here's an example of a company, Grafton Inn in Vermont, repurposing their content. They used this image of a porch swing in their email, which they announced summer activities at the inn. They repurposed the photo on Facebook to show their weekly schedule, and on Instagram, they shared it with their followers with an interesting and engaging caption. You can do the same thing. Take a tip, a quote, an image, or anything that your audience will find interesting and share it on whatever social networks you use. Now, keep a few things in mind on this. First, change the content a little bit for each network. At BusyWeb, we allow you to automatically post from your website to Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Google+, Pinterest. We have a tool that automatically adjusts the content. So one of them takes just the headline, one of them takes the headline and the image, one of them uses the excerpt, or one of them just takes the first paragraph. So it's all slightly different, and so we just write with that in mind. And that way, an Instagram post might have a couple of hashtags in it, whereas your email might be a little bit longer, or your blog post might have a little bit more detail. While we're talking about using multiple networks, keep in mind that you don't have to use all of them for your business. Just choose the ones that are right for you and your audience. If you want a deeper dive into that, I have a webinar from last month where we talked about what social networks are good for what. But in general, Facebook is kind of the E for everybody. They've got over 2 billion users now, and that seems to be where most 35 to 40-ish and up people spend their social time. If you want to tend a little bit younger, if you're trying to reach the customary millennials, Instagram or perhaps Snapchat for those Gen Z folks might be a great way to reach out. LinkedIn is great for B2B and for well-heeled executives. The average user salary on LinkedIn is over $100,000. So you can do things that are a little bit more deep. Pinterest is great for kind of crafty, kind of more visual stuff. House is wonderful if you're a landscaper. You name it, there's information about what to use for each of these networks. But in general, you know your clients. Make sure that you're writing for them and where they spend their time. And so when it comes to extending that reach, just make sure that you're meeting your audience where they actually are. Email's a great place to start, but you can reach more people, again, by sharing that content across all your social platforms. There's probably some overlap between your contact list on emails and your followers on social media, but those groups aren't identical. And what your followers do on social media, their followers see. If someone likes or comments on your post on Facebook, their friends will see that and they'll see your name. Marketing on social media tends to be less expensive than traditional advertising, so if cost is an issue, you'll get more return on your time, money, and energy by going first through email and then through Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, Snapchat, Instagram. Each has its own typical audience and decision process. You want to start with the networks that you already use because you know how they work, and then begin to move over time where you see that your customers or contacts are so that you can leverage the existing network you have on those sites and begin to generate some social visibility along the way. To be clear, email really is part of social media. The best part is, if you use an email marketing tool like Constant Contact, it's pretty easy to share your emails on social. If you're using Constant Contact, the share bar on the top of your emails allows your readers to post a link to your email in their social media profiles, also lets them quickly and easily subscribe to your emails. You can add social media buttons that link to your business's social profiles. That is a nice reminder for people to like you on Facebook if they know that you're on Facebook, or Snapchat or Instagram or whatever. And then remind your audience to share your promotions. Ask them to like them on Facebook, retweet on Twitter, or pin on Pinterest. Your audience has a lot of influence via word of mouth. And you can get your promotions in front of more people, their friends and family, if they help spread the word. You can use tools like the social share tool on Constant Contact or on Hootsuite, which is Hootsuite. Or as I mentioned, you can also use your website, especially if you have a WordPress powered website, or if you're a BusyWeb client, your website is already built to automatically share to those networks. And you can schedule those posts, you can read them, you can check them out. It's really very simple. All right, we're getting short on time here, so I want to connect you with the next steps. First, foremost, and always, remember, write for your audience, not for you. It drives me crazy when I see a website or an email that talks about X company that's been in business for 17 years or 70 years and how they do X, Y, and Z. No one really cares about who you are until they understand what you can do for them. So keep your content relevant to them, short, and focused. If you haven't heard of marketing personas before, I did an article or a seminar just like this on creating marketing personas, and we actually talked about that last week in our Buzzcast. So for more information on that, the more you know about who you're trying to reach, the better it's going to be for you to reach those exact people. So write for your audience. If I'm selling drill bits, I don't really sell drill bits, I sell holes. So focus on the hole that you fill for your client, and the rest gets easy. Speaking of easy, to create great content, take the last question that you answered for a customer, client, member, donor, or volunteer, and develop a message around that using a picture, a paragraph, and a call to action. Let's go back to that vacations in Hawaii example. What offers are available for renting in Kauai? First, the picture. Remember, 90% of the information absorbed by your brain is visual, so illustrating that subject to catch your reader's attention is important. You can use stock photography, you can use photo pin, as I mentioned. but you need to be connecting visually somehow. This photo of the beautiful seaside cliff in Hawaii grabs the reader and makes them want to learn more about seeing it in person. Next, what is it that you need to write? Respond to that last question you were asked. Your paragraph can be just a few words, including a link, a longer explanation about the subject, or tips to answer that question in a few steps. In this example, the paragraph explains that rentals are available and every third night is free. Finally, you need a call to action. What do you want your audience to do in reaction to this email? It's probably maybe not buy now. So don't get too caught up in the salesy stuff. Just tell them, click here to view, click here for more, do this now. It should be call, it should be open, it should be visit. Sometimes it can be buy, but what you really want to focus on is some specific next interim step to getting people on the path. So don't ask for the world, but give them a clear path to taking the next step. Okay, we're at 45, so I want to get this wrapped up for you so that you can get on to your day. If you want to know more, I'm going to actually send everybody that registered today a link for more information about that marketing persona. You can also click back for more information on that at busyweb.com/events and check out last week's Buzzcast. But check us out. Again, if you haven't joined our email list, we send helpful tips and tricks on marketing, as well as exclusive invitations to upcoming events when you text to 22828. So open your phone, dial 22828, and then text BUSY, B-I-Z-Z-Y. Watch your autocorrect. And when you do that, when you text BUSY to 22828, you'll get a quick text back from us that says, thank you very much for your interest. Please give us your email address and we'll add you to our list. And you'll get a note next time we send something out. That's as simple as it is. You can always unsubscribe. We don't ever sell anything on our lists. What we do, again, is invite you to helpful tips and tricks. We have a lot of folks that are getting a lot of value out of this, and I hope you are one of them. So thank you again for all of the time. If you have specific questions, I'm going to click back for one last Q&A at the end here, but seeing none, or if there are none, I will wrap this up by saying if you'd like today's presentation, send me an email at dave@busyweb.com or get a hold of us at the number provided. Just checking here. And do I see any questions on live chat? Nope, we're good. So I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you very much for your time and attention today. See you next time. Keep up with us at busyweb.com/events. And remember, at BusyWeb, we help you generate buzz without getting stung. Have a great day.